This is my Chaos Space Marine army. Well, at least it was when I was about 13 years old. And I don't know if it's age or a waning enthusiasm with the modern state of 40k, but I have decided I want to create my entire childhood army again. But I want to make it using the modern techniques and models that are available to us. So now that I'm older and wiser, the plan is to basically recreate my dream army that I chose when I was a little kid, but make it the kind of army that my childhood self could only ever dream of. Now, the first thing to do is get a closer look at some of these models and choose which ones I'm going to make. This video is sponsored by Tactics. All right, so let's take a look at what I had in my original collection. The first unit I ever painted was this unit of Chaos Space Marines. And the particular iconic model here is the Sergeant with his Power Fist and Plasma Pistol, which is just such a classic 40k loadout. Next up, we have my squad of Chaos Terminators, each blister pack costing approximately $18 back in the day, making these one of the cheaper things to get during birthdays and Christmases. I believe I started with about 3 of these and then they just continued to grow over time. Next along this cluster, we have a group of Plague Marines. These are the classic Plague Marine sculpts. And one of the great things about modern Warhammer 40k is we've never lost the ability to put those basic cult troops in our undivided armies, so I can still replicate these for Alpha Legion today. Next up, we have my red paint blood-soaked Predator with its Havoc launcher that would completely render the turret inoperable. I chucked every gun on this thing and absolutely loved it back in the day. Then from here, we have a squad of Slaanesh Noise Marines. And one of the things that's made me hold off on this project for so long is the lack of modern Noise Marine sculpts, but with the announcements the Emperor's Children are coming soon, these might just be one of the last units I do for the army as I wait for those new plastics. Then moving on to the more individual models, we have, of course, got a Chaos Sorcerer and then another Chaos Sorcerer. I don't know if 2 Chaos Sorcerers is particularly optimal in this day and age, but I have to remake every unit in this army, so I'm gonna make 2. Then we have one of my earliest ever examples of kit bashing, and as with many of these models, a lot of pieces have broken off this, but this was my custom Chaos Terminator Lord, super evil and covered in spines bursting out of his armor. And then we have a Chaos Obliterator. I did have 2 of these, but one of these got repainted a long time ago, so 2 Obliterators is what I'll be remaking. And then the pride and joy of my army, my favorite model as a child, this giant crab monster, the Chaos Defiler, the epitome of everything awesome and over the top about Chaos Space Marines circa 2003. Absolutely love this thing, and I cannot wait to do a massive conversion to make Defilers, you know, look awesome today. And finally, we have the shards of my Chaos Demon Prince, and I think this one's gonna be really easy. While he doesn't really suit the vibe of Alpha Legion, I don't really mind. They've done an amazing plastic resculpt of this model, and I can't wait to do a paint job for it. So those are the models, but which ones should I start with? And where better to start than the leader? And looking at this, we have this amazing little conversion. I love that I used the turret piece from the vehicle sprue to make this little dragon head. I stuck horns on it. We've got these spines made out of tyrannid claws. And altogether, there's a lot of love lavished on what is basically a Terminator Lord. But I've already finished that. On the channel, I converted up a Space Marine captain into Omegon, and that was basically the start of my new army. He is a highly converted, love lavished upon Terminator Lord on a larger base than he's supposed to be. Hey, just like this guy. So this is the starting point for my army, and we can kind of put that aside and let that be the guiding star for everything else I do here. And I think the best place to really begin, if I'm honest, is where it all began in the first place, and that is with the very first squad of Chaos Space Marines I ever made. Now, when I create these squads, I'm not going to be able to make them exactly 100% the same, and I don't think I really want to. The squad sizes have changed slightly, and the options are wildly different. However, in a few areas, I do want to make sure I keep it iconic, so I'm definitely going to go for the Plasma Pistol and Power Fist on the Sergeant here. Now, this is a squad I've actually already started building, so I'm going to show you all of those models, and then we're going to finish them up. The core model here is this Chaos Sergeant, who I chose to make as closely to the original Sergeant as possible, but using the modern pieces from the Chaos kit. Despite being a Chaos player for a long time, I hate painting infantry. I don't have the patience to paint armies, so I've actually painted very few bulk baseline Chaos Space Marines, preferring to keep to elite units. So this is my first time with the new Chaos kit, and I gotta say, it is pretty cool. Next up, we have 2 baseline Chaos Space Marines. These don't have any significant changes or conversions, but just used some of my favorite parts from the kit. As an Alpha Legion player, I'm going to prefer to choose ranged weapon options, especially ones that look high-tech or at least more shooty. So I went for the chain-fed bolt gun and some of my favorite helmets. I like to leave room for the sergeants and elites to look special, so when it comes to the baseline troops, I go for the lower profile or more minimal helmets. I'm also not a huge fan of the top knots. That feels very Sons of Horus and Black Legion, so I try and keep them away a little bit, although I won't be surprised if one or two do come up in the army. For the heavy weapon of choice, I'm going with my childhood spirit here. I always loved Reaper autocannons on the Chaos Terminators and put Reaper autocannons on my Defiler, but autocannons was not something that you could get in kits for your baseline Chaos Space Marines. Now you can, so I've of course gone for an autocannon here. And finally, for the most heavily converted in the squad, the new kill team rules offered these sort of subtle psychers in the squads, aspiring sorcerers that can cast a little bit of magic. They have Balefire tomes, but I didn't have the new kill team kit and I decided to make my own. Alpha Legion do make extensive use of psychers, often using them in covert operations roles where they can conceal the true nature of the squad and make them appear as other things. My Alpha Legion also survived by recruiting, so I decided that this would be an aspiring sorcerer of the 1,000 Suns that's actually been recruited into my Alpha Legion of Task Force Katos. To represent this, I used a helmet from the Rubrikai Marine kit, specifically one of the ones for the aspiring sorcerer. It's a little bit more spiky, and then I created my own diabolical tomb as an icon on his back. I chose the outstretched hand that was casting a spell, and then a really nice dagger in the offhand that I think super suits that Alpha Legion saboteur and assassin vibe. So in painting my Chaos Warriors, I gotta say I'm really happy with this scheme and how it's turning out on rank and file infantry. Now, I'd also painted a Horus Heresy model, Exodus up, and submitted it in ARC 40K's ARC Open Painting Competition. And I got some really good feedback on how to make it look better from some of the judges at that painting competition. Now, a lot of that is really appropriate for the sort of display miniatures in this army, but one tip in particular I think can be used on everything, which is just to bring in some glazes of darker tones of that purple in the armor to really accentuate some of the shadows and stop the metallic dry brush look of all of the armor from looking too uniform. So I'm going to incorporate that into the paint job to finish them up. Now, the one other thing with these models that isn't finished and won't be finished today is actually the basing. I'm really not sure how I want to base my Chaos Space Marines. So for now, at least while I develop the army, I'm going to be leaving them on clean black bases. But over the course of this project, I'm going to sort of have a brainstorm, have a think about what I want to do. It really needs to contrast their armor really nicely. So I'm thinking warm colors, browny, oranges, but I don't want to do it in a desert. So a lot of my models have a lot of like weathering pigments of brown incorporated into rubble for my trader guard. I'm not sure. If you've got some ideas of what could look good with this paint scheme for basing, I'd love to hear them. But for now, I'm going to do those last finishing steps on these models, and then I can move on to working on something else. So I'm really happy with how these have turned out. Chris Peach, or Peachy as some of you will know, has a great suggestion when starting a new paint scheme. It's to know if you like it, you should paint some models from a squad, a elite or character model, and then a vehicle to know if the scheme is really working. Now, I've painted a squad and I've painted a character, but I do need to paint a vehicle. So it's time to start from scratch, build something brand new, and the unit I think I'm going to replicate is my old Chaos Predator. But I've just spent a bunch of time painting. I feel like I need a bit of a break. So I'm going to chill out for a few minutes and then we'll get back to work. And when I need a break from the hobby, I play Tacticus. And no, this isn't just a YouTuber bit. I play this game every single day. Tacticus is a fast-paced strategic combat game set in the universe of Warhammer 40,000. There are over 70 champions currently available from 17 factions, and there are more new champions being added every month. There are amazing PvE game modes as well as PvP events and also team events such as Guild War and Guild Raid. We have a guild tabletop time where we get to chat, hang out, and play together. And it's December in Tacticus, which means Merry Grotmas, everyone. The red gobbo is descending into the game. There is a month of freebies and deals as well as special game modes and events. The red gobbo is coming to the game as a playable character for the events only. You're not going to be able to use this outside of Christmas, so make sure you enjoy it while the Christmas event runs. Not only that, we're also seeing the release of the Parasite of Mortrex this month, which is the 5th playable Tyranid character. And it doesn't end there. There's also a new Blood Angels character, Nicodemus, the Sanguinary Priest, joining the game. And genuinely, if you're a fan of Warhammer 40,000 and you're looking for a mobile game, check out Tacticus. My best and favorite team in Tacticus is the Mechanicus. So as a Christmas gift for you, we have the special code Tabletop Mech, which will give your Mechanicus teams a boost. Thank you all. Now I've managed to rest and play some Tacticus. I feel ready to build a model. So the time has come for me to start making my Predator, and when I identify the iconic parts of my classic model, it's a Havoc launcher, combi weapon, searchlight, basically every bit I could glue onto this kit, well, I glued onto it. There's also a lot of spikes and this nasty dozer blade. Now we have a lot more options than we did back in the early thousands, and one of those options is to use Horus Heresy equipment for Chaos Space Marines in 40K. Personally, I think this is a really cool idea as it drives a bit of a distinction between the modern Space Marine equipment and the Heresy era stuff, which some of the legions would still be using. Whether or not through the STCs that the Dark Mechanicus is building, or just adherence to old designs or equipment they've still got from the Heresy. So to that end, I'm going to be building a Deimius Predator from the Horus Heresy. This kit differs slightly in design, so I'm going to need to make some changes. When building the kit, I've also opted to go for the autocannon and heavy bolters, just because that's what I feel like my army needs a bit more than the las cannons, but I've also magnetized the options. This allows me to swap to the las cannons if I want, and because I have other Heresy vehicle kits, I can just swap the side sponsons. So this is really modular and will allow me to do whatever I need. However, as an adult building this kit, one of the things that I'm making sure to do is to put things in areas where they don't obstruct lines of fire or the actual general operation of the vehicle. For example, the Chaos Predator I made when I was younger has this Havoc launcher which obstructs the rotation of the turret, so I need an alternate for this. Now, the way the Heresy kit builds the combi bolter, which you can build for the top, is also where you put the Havoc launcher, inserting it into the copula, which means I'd need one or the other, but this tank needs both. So for the combi weapon, I'm actually going to be incorporating the Volkite, because in modern 40K, the combi weapons, it doesn't matter what the other half is, it's just a combi weapon now. And this is a way I can include Volkite in my 40K Chaos forces, and Chaos don't have any access to Volkite, but my Alpha Legion Task Force Katos are very tightly aligned to the Dark Mechanicum and are known for their esoteric technology, so it's a great little way for me to represent that. A little tip I have for you if you're building the Deimius kit: if you magnetize the gun on the front and then slice the tabs off the little section that glues on, there's like an ammo box for the autocannon. You can actually have these as plastic pieces that you can just clip in and pull out, so you can swap between the different weapons, plasma cannon, Volkite weapon, and the little generators that sit on the back, and it will allow you to make your Predators really modular, and you can just swap between your equipment whenever you need, which is really cool. But as for the Havoc launcher, I'm actually going to be doing something completely different. I've designed my own Havoc launcher and 3D printed it to be reminiscent of the Mammoth tank from Command & Conquer and Command & Conquer Red Alert. I really like this design. I think the idea of a big box of missiles just glued onto the Predator, it looks a bit big and out of place. By splitting it into these side-mounted turret launchers, yeah, I'm big into this. But that is not all. I obviously need to make a Horus Heresy kit feel a little bit more chaosy. And while I don't want to stick trophy racks all over it like I did when I was a child, because my understanding of chaos has sort of evolved over time and I play Alpha Legion and trophy racks are fine, but not too many of them. Instead, I'm going to put some chaos trim on this model. The original Predator kit has none of this. It's just a chaos spiky bit sprue stuck onto a regular Predator. So to do this, I'm going to use plasticard strips. And the area I'm going to start is actually the back. Predators are built out of the Rhino kit. The Rhino kit is a transport, and that means there's a big hatch at the back that opens and closes. But if the Predator is a tank, the back of the vehicle will be filled with turret housings, ammunition, things like that. And there wouldn't be any room for transport capacity. So I start with my trimming, hiding all the seams of the door to make it clear that the back of this vehicle is not a door, it's just a panel of the tank. Once these are cut to size, hiding the seams, I then cut out some triangles of plasticard to create some chaos spikes along the lengths of this trim. And then I use a lovely little plastic rivet from Tichy Train Group and just snip the end off these and glue them in. And I use a little bit of blue tack on the end of a paintbrush to position them. So then I take this technique, follow it all around my tank, put some trim on the front, on the sides, put some rivets in, and all together we have a nice subtle basis for an Alpha Legion vehicle. But there is one more thing I need to do to convert this, and that is put the symbol of Task Force Katos on the vehicle. I'd made this in a previous video for a Horus Heresy vehicle, and now I'm going to make a new version, slightly modify it, and then 3D print it and glue it on the back. There's a beautiful big space on that back door that's just begging for a logo. And my hope with all this being done is that the vehicle will not only be great for my 40K Chaos Space Marines, but will also be completely appropriate as a late Heresy vehicle, because I've not gone too over the top with all the Chaos stuff. But the only way we're going to know if I've gone too over the top is when we get to the paint job. So if you watched last week's video, you would have seen us talking about our experiences with Kickstarter and Backer Kit. And I won't go into that in this video, but I do want to say a huge thank you to all the people who have followed the Backer Kit and are supporting us. In that video, I used a sports metaphor for America. I'm going to use another sports metaphor. It's starting to feel like the bases are loaded and we are primed to actually take that swing and maybe get a few runs because of you all, we can look into the new year with some optimism. So thank you for that. However, for this video, I do have to say that's where the story ends. Originally, I had planned to paint this conversion I've made of my Predator, but having our Kickstarter canceled and then me having to film and edit that video and replace it last week, I just have lost the time that I had to do that. And because it is the end of the year, I can't delay this video either. We have to put it out this weekend and then we've got a couple of weeks off, which is gonna be really fantastic. So I hope you've enjoyed what I've made today. I hope you're excited to see it. And I really hope you're excited to follow me along this journey. I'm gonna be making more videos in this series, at least one more, and committing to getting them out fairly regularly, provided the interest holds up. And if it doesn't, don't worry, we'll wrap it all up nicely. But for the next video, I will paint that Predator off screen and I'll show it off in the next one. But I wanna know what you wanna see more. Do you wanna see me convert and paint and modernize? Do you want to see me make my Obliterators or my Defiler? Both projects will require extensive conversion to get them how I want them to be, and I'm really keen to tackle either. So I really don't mind. Chuck them in the comments whether you want to see the Defiler conversion or the Obliterators, and I'll do either for the next video sometime very early next year. But now let's have a look at some reveals. You can check out the squad that I've painted and also my Predator conversion, and then I'll see you in the outro. If you sign up to the Tabletop Time Patreon, we read your name out in a video. And thanks to the kerfuffle last week, I've got a few this week. So thank you so much to Mason, Karen Hetchel, Bratch, Riork Bywater, Noah Dillon, Douglas Dean, Daniel Bauer, Simon Fraser, Sebastian Wolf Holtegard, Jamie McManus, Jack, Liz Connor, Danny Watkins, Grant Skinner, Edward Piper, Stephen Brewster, Ann Den Boone, and Emily Hogue. Your support has been immense over this year and has kept us going, so we really do appreciate it. Thank you, everyone. So that's it. I've got my converted little tank, I've got my squad of dudes, and this project is off to a start. I hope you all have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. We have recorded another video alongside this, but I'm actually filming this on the last day of work for the year. We've got a couple of weeks off. So we do have another upload coming next week, but this is my last opportunity to say I hope you all have a wonderful holiday season. Stay safe, look after each other, and we'll see you in the next year. Bye, everyone. And thank you to Tacticus for sponsoring this video.